Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
Welcome to Everybody's Business from Bloomberg Businessweek. I'm Max Chafkin.
And I'm Stacey Bannock-Smith. And this week, we have a shutdown that ended.
Yeah, and we have some really interesting ideas for how to make buying a home maybe a little more affordable for people.
Yes, as long as you live a really long time. Also, this week, Businessweek has a special about beauty and takes a big, deep dive into this $500 billion industry. We have Amanda Mull on talking about one of the biggest but maybe less talked about players.
Yep, and then a double-barrel underrated story.
That's right.
One feud, one death. It's going to be great.
It's going to be great.
All right, Stacey, great news. We are recording this on Thursday, November 13th. The government shutdown, it lasted 7 weeks, longest in history. It's over.
It is over, yes. There is a lot of coming back to do as far as, people getting their paychecks that are long overdue, people going back to work, flight schedules smoothing out, but it is good news, at least as far as getting the government back on track.
Well, I do also think we're sort of in this weird moment of maybe political reckoning. You had the Democrats obviously perform well in the elections. We talked about that last week. You have this shutdown ending, the Trump administration kind of scrambling essentially to come up with ideas to change the conversation, to sort of try to embrace that message that Democrats had been pushing around affordability that Trump had kind of had for a time but maybe lost. That's coming in the conversation that's coming up. But before we get there, I want to talk about beauty and specifically the lipstick effect. You have a new piece in Businessweek. Businessweek, the beauty issue is coming out. It's on the web now as you're listening to this. And you wrote about this kind of interesting phenomenon that happens with sort of, luxury items? Or why don't you explain?
It's makeup specifically. It's super interesting. So, one of the issues that happened during the shutdown was we just did not get data. And this is a moment where the economy feels a little bit like maybe it's at a turning point or like a really key point, especially the job market. So people are looking at anything. One of the kind of more interesting recession indicators that is out there is called the lipstick effect. It was identified by Leonard Lauder, who was the CEO of Estee Lauder at the time, and he noticed that during economic downturns, makeup sales went up. It's been dubbed the lipstick effect, but it actually does seem to hold true, and there's been all this speculation as to why, so I looked into it. There were some sort of annoyingly disturbing theories. One of them was that when economic times get tight, women will gussy up to land a wealthy man, or maybe to make it easier to find a job.
Do not repeat this insight.
Do not repeat this insight indeed. But there actually have been some studies on it. I tracked down this economist. Her name is Yasmin Dildar. She's a professor of economics at California State University, San Bernardino, and she looked into the lipstick effect and actually compared makeup spending and broke it down by people who were employed versus unemployed and people who were married versus unmarried. And here's what she found.
Lipstick effect is completely innocent, in my opinion. It's definitely not driven by those sexist assumptions about women appealing to high-earning males. It has nothing to do with mating or beauty or whatever. It's just a simple treat.
So what she found was...
It's the same reason beer sales go up during a recession, basically.
Yes.
It's just you're bummed out. You got to find some small way to feel better.
Yes. Well, what happens is people cut back, and this is true for men and women, cut back on bigger purchases, and then they will buy smaller treats like beer. For women, it tends to be makeup. So there's a $40 sweet spot. According to Deloitte. It's a little higher for men, but there's a $40 sweet spot of little luxuries that people turn to. And they're doing that now, which is kind of an interesting omen.
Yikes.
I know it's happening now, but it could be happening for a number of reasons. It doesn't necessarily mean a recession is coming, but it is one of those little indicators that people watch. So I looked at a bunch of data. It seems like the lipstick effect is happening, but we have a Sephora very close to our office, which I have possibly visited a time or two. And so I found some people coming in and out of that Sephora, and I talked to them to see if they were, in fact, maybe spending a little bit more.
You're doing your own research
on
here.
Makeup. Yes, research on the ground. Here's what they said.
How much would you say you spend on makeup a month?
At least $50.
I just buy what I need.
Our paycheck might as well go directly to Sephora. Yeah, as soon as that paycheck hits, we're here trying out like the latest lip gloss, lipstick.
How much would you say you spend like a month in Sephora?
$1,000.
Anywhere
I'm not
between-
even exaggerating.
No.
We last time went here,
We spent like $800.
yeah.
What are some of your favorite products?
NARS concealer I could be dead and it will wake me up from like it could make a zombie look good.
I've been really into Hailey Bieber's new line, Rhode. Their lip products are really nice.
Sometimes you just buy it because it looks cute in your makeup bag.
What is it about beauty products that like bring you back to the store?
The way they make you feel. Like I will fall in love with the perfume and I will wear it and I'll spray 100 times, like killing everyone in the office, but I don't care because I'm like, it makes me feel nice. And the high that I get from makeup or perfumes is not the same if I bought like a nice little blazer. It's a different joy that you get from getting a new blush, getting a new lipstick, getting a new perfume. I don't know.
Someone telling you, oh, that
Oh, you
smells
smell
so good.
Yeah.
You're like, thank you. That's
No one's
great.
walking around and saying like, oh, that's a nice blazer.
Oh my God. $800 a month at Sephora.
Yeah.
Wow.
It can happen faster than you think. I've never quite gone into the $800, but yeah, people were spending, and everybody said they were spending less on clothes and that they were spending a little more on makeup.
So I was trying to think about, okay, like what is the male equivalent of this? And like I said beer before, but it might be sports betting now.
Oh,
and
that's
like,
true.
You have these stories about people like my spouse is lost like $300,000 betting on sports or whatever. I feel like we're kind of getting into that territory here with some of these.
Yes.
Sephora customers.
Well, I looked into that a little bit. For men, it seems to be video gaming is a big one and electronics.
That
So
makes sense, actually.
those are their little, like probably next week, maybe we can go stalk people outside of Best Buy and see what
it's so
they're
sad.
getting, how much money they're
It's
dropping
not
every
as nice
month.
as having people tell you you smell good. Wow.
I know. It is sort of true that like spending on makeup, it's a little different. It's like there's something of like a little dream in there.
You know, Stacey, this conversation makes me want to hear from the people who listen to this show.
Me too.
Because, first of all, I want to hear how much money they're spending at Sephora and the like. Is it $800? Is it $80? But also, like, when you think about this, the economy's not great, but I got to treat myself somehow. What are you treating yourself
Yeah.
to? Is it kind of sad video gaming? Is it smelling awful, but it makes you feel nice? What is it? Like, let us
Yeah.
know. Send us an email, everybody's@bloomberg.net, and tell us, like, first of all, what you're buying and how much money it costs. If you don't want us to use your name.
And if you're spending
let
more
us
or
know
less
if it's
than you
embarrassing.
normally do. So, Max, we've been talking about the government shutdown and it's kind of the effects that it's had across the economy, including one of the questions that it brings up, which is like how we're going to pay for things going forward.
Yeah, and just like there were all these questions swirling about just how bad the economy was, how bad consumers were feeling, affordability. Now it feels like government shutdown's over. We can go back to thinking about those questions.
Yes. But you know, our president is a real estate person, right? And he made this suggestion that has caused quite a splash this week, which was to introduce a 50-year mortgage.
Love it. It's like
You have a mortgage. I don't have a mortgage. But
Yeah,
you have
just
like
a normal 30-year one, not a cool new 50-year one.
And this sparked a big debate, which actually I didn't quite understand at first. Like 30 years, 50 years, it didn't seem to make a difference.
So basically, everyone thinks this is a bad idea. The left thinks this is a really bad
I
idea.
know.
A bunch of people on the right think it's a bad idea. But there's one person who's here with us right now who actually made I thought, a pretty persuasive argument that it could be an okay idea.
Yes. We're very lucky to be joined by economist Allison Schrager, a senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute and an opinion columnist here at Bloomberg. Welcome, Allison.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, before we get into like hot takes, like what is the difference between a 30-year mortgage and a 50-year mortgage? And like what is this supposed to fix? What's the idea?
So, I mean, in financial terms, it's not a huge difference. And in a lot of ways, I feel like everyone freaking out about this idea has been very illuminating to me. You realize you're an economist who does into bonds, and how you think about things and how everyone else thinks about things is completely different. And that's been revealed to me this week because it has been this unifying left and right idea. And so a 50-year, the obvious difference is it's 20 years longer, which means your interest rate payments and paying the principal is spread out longer. So you pay less month to month. And of course, you're also paying off the principal more slowly. So I'm noticing a lot of people are very upset about this idea because there's this idea that I have a 30-year mortgage too, that you buy a home, it's yours. One day you pay it off and then it's all yours. And a 50-year would mean 20 years longer, and most people will not be alive then. Like if you buy a home when you're 40 and you pay it off.
Which is the average age of a home purchaser now, I believe.
Exactly. And that's part of the problem. And you pay it off when you're 70, then you don't have to pay for your house in retirement. But now if it's 50, you're like 90 and, maybe, dead, or, you had to pay your mortgage throughout retirement.
Or you've downsized, maybe.
Well, that's actually the thing that I realize how I think about it differently than everyone else. Because most people don't do this. Most people don't buy their first home in their 40s and then pay it off when they're 70 and continue to live there. Things happen in life between 40 and 70. Like you might move, you might refinance, you might just decide to pay your mortgage off early. And most people end up doing that. Most people aren't paying it off at the end anyway. So I guess you could argue that, you get less money back when you sell it, with a 30-year than a 50-year. But there's also the time value of money, which Peter Coy just pointed out, which is if you have a lower mortgage payment, you could use those savings. One, it makes you more likely to afford the house, but you could also use those savings to invest in other things. Maybe get a higher return. Maybe diversify your assets a bit from this house that's most of your assets.
Can we just back up and explain why Trump is floating this? Like, he's floating this because home prices have been going up like crazy, and there is a real affordability challenge with homeownership. And it's part of it has to do with the fact that interest rates were low for a very long time. So there are a lot of people who have these really great mortgages paying like 2.5% or something over 30 years. Now, if you look to buy a house, you're talking about 6%, 7%, something like that. And as a result, no one is selling their houses, and that is driving the price of real estate up, which means that the amount you can afford to buy is much less because your monthly payment is much higher. If it's a 50-year mortgage, your monthly payment goes down. Did I get all that right, Allison?
Yeah, I think that's the justification, is we need to do something because no one's moving, and that's adding to the supply issue.
So why are people so against this idea? It seems on its face, I will admit, like a fine idea. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I would have thought. But again, it's this romantic notion. I don't know if romance is the right word. Ideal. That you buy a house, you pay it off, and then it's yours. And this effectively, I think I'm noticing when people's commentary is this makes this impossible.
I did hear it described, I really liked this, by Ernie Tedeschi on Twitter as shrinkflation, which I did kind of like. I mean, I guess the idea is you're now building equity much more slowly, and the benefits of homeownership, which are very tied in with ideas of the American dream and also kind of moving up the ladder financially. I think a lot of it is like building equity and things like that. That's just going to happen much more slowly. I guess that's the big issue.
I mean, for me, the worst thing about this potentially would be that basically it just causes home prices to go up more because like suddenly you could afford even more. And maybe, I don't know, Allison, I don't know what you think about this. Maybe if they actually created this policy, it would force the federal government to essentially like backstop these loans because no one in their right mind is going to give a 50-year fixed mortgage. So like you're just creating yet another federal subsidy that benefits like one part of the population, people who own homes, and you're creating an even worse gap between renting and homeowning or something like that.
But we already entered that world with the 30-year mortgage.
You're just like, it's too late. We got to just
well, no,
we're here
I mean,
now.
like if they put me in charge, I would do a lot of radical things to the housing market, but
what
I'm not.
What would you do to the housing market?
Well, I mean, I'd build more. I'd probably have more portable mortgages. I'm not sure a 30-year fixed rate should exist, but they do. I have one. I love it. But it's a financial abomination that also requires a ton of government intervention for that to even exist. It's insane that a bank would lend a consumer a 30-year fixed rate loan at such a low rate. That should never happen. And it takes all of this government intervention for that to happen.
Given the the politics, given that you had a lot of kind of sort of like people to Trump's right kind of hating this because of usury. You had people on the left talking about it as a handout to banks that just like further exacerbates inequality. Do you see any path for any of this stuff to actually happen?
I think one thing we're learning is housing affordability is becoming the most salient political topic. But I think with real estate, it's particularly, say, thorny because home prices are just too high. People are just being shut out because prices are high. And the problem is we've sold real estate as this American dream that both will be your home where you invest in, but will also be this amazing asset that pays off.
Yeah.
And the problem is if we actually built enough housing to really meet demands, housing prices would also fall. A lot of Americans own a home and it's their primary asset in their portfolio. And this is one reason why people are NIMBYs, is they have a financial interest. And as a homeowner, I get this. You know, I don't want to see the value of my home fall. Anyway,
Right.
it is.
You don't want some huge apartment building coming up next to you with a million
We
units.
should say it's not just that you don't want to see it. It's that many people can't afford to see the value of their home.
A lot of people, this
fall.
is their main nest egg.
Yeah.
This is what they're going to retire on. So when we talk a good game about, wow, you know, it'd be really great to build more and have home prices be more affordable, you know, there's winners and losers in that. And there's a reason why it's not just so easy is, you know, you will be sort of, I don't say destroying, but like really sort of decimating the portfolios of pretty much every homeowner in America, which is pretty much almost all the middle and upper middle class.
Well, the affordability issue is really interesting. I was just looking at this chart of the median age of first-time home buyers, and 5 years ago, it was 33, and now it's 40. I mean, that is a huge jump.
Yeah, and a lot of it is the sort of messed up housing market that we have where just prices, because, you know, on the one hand, people are like, it's never been harder to buy a house, and that is true, although mortgage rates were like 17% in the 80s.
Yeah, my mom said she was like shopping around for mortgages when she and my dad were buying their first house in Boise, and she got like an 8% mortgage, and she said she was thrilled, which now would be
outrageous.
Yes.
Of course, house prices were a lot cheaper then, too.
Yes, that's also true.
Wait, but you were about to say people were able to afford homes in the 80s because they were cheaper. Is that what you're saying?
They were cheaper. Also, there was less of an economic need to live in high-density areas. So, people, you know, Boise has gotten a lot more expensive.
True.
It's become a much more desirable city than it was in the 80s.
Also, that time when interest rates were that high, like, that caused a huge recession. Like, it wasn't good for the economy. Like, I think it probably did slow down.
Although it did break inflation.
It did break inflation.
What happened to all the wonderful predictions we heard from like the tech companies during the pandemic about how Zoom, et cetera, was going to remake real estate and like it was going to suddenly be like way easier to... none of that happened, huh? It's just people, even in these like far-flung communities that people move from San Francisco to, home prices are high. Like that whole prediction just turned out to be
Well, I think
bunk.
Allison would know better than me, but my take on that is that the job market changed and companies were like, you have to come back to the office. So suddenly the real estate market became concentrated on cities again, but I don't know.
Yeah, and you know, young, ambitious people want to be in cities, and that's still true. I mean, I think we saw even in New York before people had to come back to the office, you saw this influx of young people, you know, who want to make their careers here. I mean, it's not only fun for them, but you also do important networking and skill building and development. So I can see this is part of the problem with affordability is if you're in your 20s and you're not making a lot of money yet, you still feel a lot of pressure, even sort of for your career, to be in a very expensive place. But very expensive places are pricing people out.
Okay, so Allison, final take, 50-year mortgage, thumbs up, thumbs down.
You know, it's a weak thumbs up. Like,
Okay.
I don't think it's terrible, but like, I don't see it as being particularly worse or better than a 30-year.
This isn't going to solve the housing.
It will make it
logjam.
marginally better. I mean, it will bring down mortgage rates. And I think I said in my column, I would prefer a 50-year mortgage to, say, financial repression, where we just go in and force interest rates down. That would be worse. Or relaxing lending standards, that would also be worse. So of all the things they could potentially do short of these portable mortgages, this would be better.
50-year mortgage, not the worst solution to the housing crisis.
Exactly.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Allison.
Stacey, I don't think you're going to be surprised to hear this, but I am not a big spender when it comes to items of beauty.
I am.
This has come up before.
Do we count hair products though?
I do. Thank you. Thank you for seeing me.
Yeah. Well, I know that you did not. You have refused to call the person who cut your hair your barber. It's like your stylist. Or like,
I'm totally
you call
called
them
out.
like,
Brian, if you're listening, love you. But
see.
okay, so maybe I'm wrong. But I nonetheless had not heard of Ulta, the company that is on the cover of this month's issue of Bloomberg Businessweek. It is one of the hot things both in retail and in beauty. And Amanda Mull, who wrote that story, is with us now. Hey, Amanda.
Hey.
So I had heard of Ulta because my parents live in Eagle, Idaho, and there's an Ulta in Meridian, and it's a big deal there. But like, it's much less of a deal in New York. New York's all about Sephora. But that was kind of what your piece was about. I was like really floored that Ulta is at the size of it. Will you just kind of like describe this company to us?
Yeah, absolutely. Ulta is a Fortune 500 public company. They are a beauty retailer. They have, at most recent count, 1,500 stores in the U.S. They've been around since 1990. They opened their first 3 stores in the North Chicago suburbs. And it was founded by 2 executives from Osco Drug, which is a Midwestern chain pharmacy. And their fundamental insight was that they have a lot of customers at the pharmacy who buy a lot of beauty products there, but then also buy a lot of high-end beauty products. So what if we made a beauty retailer that carried low-end, middle-range, and high-end stuff? And people could, come and get it all at the same place in a convenient shopping center location. And the overall sort of value proposition of Ulta remains that. It's just grown sort of massively. And you can get everything from like an $8 Maybelline eyebrow pencil to Chanel and Prada perfume. They carry 600 brands. They carry over 30,000 SKUs, products, most of them in store. They are like the Best Buy or Home Depot of the beauty industry.
First of all, $11 billion a year in revenue. This is a big...
And that's like a huge growth trajectory over even recent years. In 2019, they brought in about $6 billion of revenue.
So what's crazy to me is I feel like, I've read a lot of stories over the last 5-10 years that are basically about how this model is done, that big box stores are not good anymore. Businessweek has done stories about Best Buy, basically going down the drain, Bed Bath & Beyond doing not great. Like, I thought that this model was dead. With the internet, you would never go to like a strip mall and spend a couple $100, on products. You would do that on the internet.
Yeah, in almost every other sector, this model is dead. Beauty is particularly unique in this way in that in the US, it has 2 sort of thriving, large-scale, multi-brand retailers. It has both Ulta and Sephora. They sort of take different views of the beauty industry and of beauty retail. Sephora is very like mall-based. It is smaller in footprint. They only carry high-end products.
It's very cool, too. Like the vibe of a Sephora it's kind of cool, and there's loud music, and the people are chic, and
Yeah, and it's very slick. Like it's sort of like a candy store, whereas Ulta is more of a utilitarian,
like a drugstore.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many times the executives that I spoke with for this story said that their priority is to be welcoming and inclusive and to have a little bit of something for everybody and to serve everybody's needs and whatever those needs are in the full spectrum. And the beauty industry in particular is like a very segmented, very sort of like branding driven industry because a lot of these products aren't like that different. There's like only so many chemical cosmetic advances every year.
What about the new Stick Foundation?
Yeah, so you get a lot of like similar products across brands, across price points. And in order to compel somebody to buy a $42 Chanel lip gloss when a $10 e.l.f. lip gloss sort of does the same thing to your lips, you have to give them an environment. You have to give them a feeling. You have to give them, sort of a sales pitch. And that traditionally doesn't work really well when all of that stuff is under the same roof and you can like swipe them both on the back of your hand and see that they're like very similar. But Ulta, their theory was like, actually, you can do that. It's fine. Like consumers understand that like there might not be like a ton of difference in these 2 products, but they want the Chanel version because it has the cool packaging, because it feels cool to buy something from Chanel. And the existence of that Chanel lip gloss in the same place that they buy CeraVe body wash for $9 is not, like, one does not damage the other. In fact, it's great that they're both together because you might come in for that lip gloss and then be like, oh, I need some shower gel. And they put themselves in these shopping centers that are sort of unglamorous. I went to one in New Jersey that was next to a PetSmart and a Marshall's and like across the parking lot from a Walmart, and places that people go like on the way to work, on their lunch break, things like that.
I do wonder, to Stacey's point about Sephora, if part of what makes the company smart is that Sephora is too cool for people or too young or something. Maybe only because I'm a parent of a tween. Like I think of Sephora as like basically a brand for 12-year-olds, as a store for 12-year-olds. And I realize it isn't exclusively that, although maybe there's something more welcoming about a Home Depot-like environment versus a place that's trying super hard.
Yeah, Sephora, which is owned by LVMH, which is, of course, a huge French luxury conglomerate, takes itself a little bit more seriously. They tend to be in higher-end malls or like very pricey, sort of like flagship real estate in city shopping districts. They carry mostly more expensive products, a smaller assortment. The aisles are a little bit tighter. You're going to get sort of bugged a little bit more by the people who work there. It is just like a different feeling.
Well, I think, too, like to Max's point about the big box stores, one of the differences in beauty is that is a product you want to try.
Yes.
And also, it's not only that you want to try it, but it's that there's something kind of nice about those being in those stores and trying products on. It feels maybe a little self-carry or something like that.
Yeah, I think that first, beauty is an in-person business. Ulta has a huge, internet presence, so does Sephora, but 80% of Ulta's purchases still originate in stores. It's people walking in. It's not somebody ordering online and picking up in store. It is 80% is people walking in, buying something, walking out. And that's because, like you said, beauty is just like a very tactile, very in-person industry. Like you want to be able to see how the eyeshadow palette shimmers. You want to be able to see if this new color of foundation actually matches your skin. I think for a lot of people, beauty and beauty products feel like possibility. You might be one product away from your new self, which is, a marketing gambit that the beauty industry loves, but also it really does feel that way to a lot of people. And which makes it, if you're going into PetSmart to get cat food or to buy or something like that, that's not that fun. But if there's an Ulta right next to it, maybe you go over there and see if they got something new that you might like. See if they've got the new mascara that you read about or saw on TikTok or something like that.
So, yeah, I think the CEO of Revlon at one point said, we don't sell makeup, we sell hope. One of the things that came up in this beauty issue, it's Businessweek's beauty issue, is the fact that makeup's actually doing really well at this moment, that a lot of other parts of the economy are not. Is that maybe part of why?
Yeah, I think we're in a sort of odd economic space right now, and we've been there before, we'll be there again. And throughout these times, the beauty industry tends to thrive. It's, it's what is called the lipstick effect. So retailers like Ulta, I think, really have an advantage during these periods because they are places where people go to have a little bit of fun, to buy a little something that feels special, that feels like they're not going to have to sacrifice other things in life to get it.
So I feel like that concept will not surprise people. The ultimate example of the lipstick effect, the pandemic, when all sorts of products like this, of course, not just beauty products, but we had a whole, YOLO buying and,
Also, we were all on Zoom, so I feel like you saw your face all the time.
And a lot of people got on TikTok for the first time and started seeing TikTok is huge for beauty.
Ulta's sales have nearly doubled since before the pandemic. If you look at, there's a chart with the growth, it is crazy, 2021, 22, 23, 24. It really grew quickly, but growth has kind of leveled off. And it does seem like the industry, while when you're reporting the story, they told you we're not seeing sales fall off, we're not seeing economic uncertainty impact Ulta. It does seem like the industry as a whole is kind of not as hot as it was, during those go-go pandemic years.
Yeah, there was this burst of activity over the course of a few years. There was a lot of pent-up demand from higher income consumers who had been sort of stuck at home, not traveling, not going out to dinner, not doing all these things that they might otherwise spend their money on, working from home. And then they suddenly went back to being perceived by other people in real life.
It was a rough transition.
Yeah. And there's a lot of things that happened in those few years. A lot of people got Botox for the first time. There was a big surge in med spa sales. There was a lot of inquiries to plastic surgeons, and the beauty industry in general just sort of really, really boomed across retailers, across brands, across countries. That growth has slowed down a little bit. Obviously there's no more pent up demand, but it continues to grow. I think the growth estimates right now annually for the next 5 years are between 3.5% to 5%. Before this year, the estimate was more like 7%, I think. So it's still growing, but it's not growing quite as much. Ulta is still growing, though. They had been flat for a little while, but in January, they brought in a new CEO, Keisha Steelman, who had been their chief operations officer previously. And she, for the past 2 quarters, has beaten Wall Street expectations. The company is expanding overseas. They opened a store in Kuwait recently, a store in Mexico before that. The Middle East and Latin America are huge emphasis for them in the next couple of years. And they also added an online marketplace, which is the same type of business model that allowed Amazon and Walmart to sort of scale up their e-commerce very quickly for, low overhead. What they're doing differently is they're vetting beauty brands that are sort of coming into their marketplace and listing their own things. But it means that they, if a hot new brand shows up on TikTok, they don't have to send their buyers out to that team and try to buy inventory and compete against other people for inventory. They can say to this brand, hey, put your stuff on our website. You can fulfill it directly. And then they get a bunch of data about who they actually should bring into the store. So they've found a couple of creative ways in a relatively short period of time to find additional white space where it seemed like there might not be any.
One thing I was wondering as you've been talking, you've written a lot about the drugstore business. Obviously, the founders of this company came from drugstores. It sells a lot of same products that are available in drugstores. And one of the things you've talked about, you've written about a lot, is the way that drugstores have basically repelled their customers, set up all of these systems and policies that basically make them miserable to shop in. The most famous one being the locking up of everything, including some very inexpensive items. So my first question is, do they lock anything up at these stores? I assume they have to, because it seems like every retailer does that. And second, are there lessons here for other struggling retailers?
Yeah, at some Ulta locations, there are locked perfume displays. Perfume in particular is it's easy to resell online, and it's it's small form factor, high price tag. So anything like that is always a shoplifting target. So some stores do have locked perfume displays. They still have the testers out where you can try them that way.
Sometimes they'll have the tester with
they have the little strap.
Yes. Yeah. They're basically chain.
Like a leash.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. They're like a retractable leash.
Yeah.
They have those at Sephora.
They find ways to do it that sort of don't harm your experience as somebody who wants to touch things and smell things and experience things before you buy them. And I think Ulta and Sephora both do this well, but they staff their stores. If you need something, if you have a question, if you need a recommendation, if you need somebody with keys, there's a lot of people around who can do that for you. And Ulta also, they have tried a lot of different things in their stores as far as services and events go. And I think that sort of engages people in a quite positive way that makes people want to go into a store, gets people familiar with a store near them. The store that I visited in New Jersey to talk to some Ulta customers, there was a flyer on the door for a masterclass in figuring out how to blow your hair out in the same way that Sabrina Carpenter does. You could go in and Ulta would have their hairstylist show you how to recreate Sabrina Carpenter's hairstyle with the products that she endorses from Redken, which they can carry in their store because they have a functioning salon in almost all of their locations, which means that they can carry a lot of hair products that only distribute through salon businesses. So, there's a real experiential element of what Ulta offers to people that I think other retailers, whether it's just staffing the stores well, so people feel like they're getting an added value for going in, or having events, having services, they do a really good job of making it worthwhile to come in.
Amanda, that was awesome. Everyone should check out the article, but you need to stick around, and we are going to talk about our underrated stories this week. Okay, listeners, I have great news for you, which is that we are trying a new ender this week, which is that there are going to be 2 underrated stories insteid of 1.
Yes,
Amanda.
And you can email in to say whose was better.
Everybody's at Bloomberg.net. All right, so I'm going to tell you mine, Stacey, and you can give me yours. And Amanda, I want you to weigh in. I assume that both of you are familiar with X, the everything app.
X. Twitter.
Yes. A lot of people feel like it has not really been the same since Elon Musk bought it. Usage has gone down. I'd say
there are a lot of bots.
A lot of bots. The value has gone down, except as an AI thing. But I want to present a sort of like a counterpoint, which is that there was an amazing literary feud playing out on X, the everything app, over the weekend that I think is the underrated story. Amanda, I think, already knows what it is.
Yeah.
It is Joyce Carol Oates,
The GOAT.
one of the great living American fiction writers, beefing in public with Elon Musk, the owner of X. And I gotta say, it was so funny. You're already laughing, so I think you know. But for anyone who doesn't, Joyce Carol Oates wrote kind of a lengthy message basically suggesting that Musk was not touching grass enough. So curious that such a wealthy man never posted.
That's like not wrong.
It is 100% right. Which I think is why it kind of cut to the bone a little bit.
What did she write?
I'll read a little excerpt. So curious that such a wealthy man never posts anything that indicates that he enjoys or is even aware of what virtually everyone appreciates. Scenes from nature, pet dog or cat, praise for a movie, music, a book, paren, but doubt he reads.
This is very well said.
Yeah, okay. So here's what makes this funny is that Musk reads his mentions, as I think anyone who's followed for a long time knows. He was on top of this, and he responded, Oates is a liar and delights in being mean.
What?
Not a good human. And then he wrote, eating a bag of sawdust would be vastly more enjoyable than reading the laboriously pretentious drivel of Oates. That sounds like Grok helped him with that one. But
Laboriously pretentious drivel is a laboriously pretentious sentence.
Okay, so this would be kind of a lame feud, I would argue, but what happened next was the best is because he spent the weekend basically talking about his favorite movies. So he likes Man on Fire. He likes The Fifth Element. It's like he
took the note.
He took the note, yeah.
Where I am from, the phrase for this would be hit dogs holler.
Wait, what is that?
Means, she clearly got him a little bit in a way that he had to, that clearly evoked something in him. And I mean, Joyce Carol Oates, I am a fan of her entire posting catalog. She has put out some incredible bangers on X, the everything app, over the years. But this one was just like, it clearly unnerved him in a way that not everything does.
It's such a simple point to make. It's like, this. Do you like anything? Like, you're always like yelling at the moon. Go get an ice cream cone with one of your 13 children.
Yeah, watch Monday Night Football. See how it feels.
The thing is, he does every now and then post some preference, but
I feel like you've watched this tweet for a while.
I spend a lot of time reading his tweets. And
like, is this true?
I'd say she's mostly right. He does every now and then express a preference, but it has the quality of Rob Lowe in the NFL hat, like a kind of a forced, I am doing this because, somebody involved in advertising told me, or there's been so much Nazi content this week that I kind of just need to balance the scales a little bit or whatever. So yeah. But I think it is nice that he took the note. To me, this kind of redeems X a little. Like the fact that we're still getting a high quality, celebrity beef, billionaire v big time
95-year-old author.
87-year-old author.
She's in her 90s, sorry.
Spending her twilight years beefing on X. You got to say, we are...
He's a little bit changed, maybe.
X is alive.
Maybe his life got a little bit better because of Twitter, and there aren't many people who can say that.
All right, what's yours, Stacey?
Okay, mine is sad. It's an ending, which is this. I can already tell Max is going to be irritated by this. This week, I'm guessing, this week, the last penny was minted.
Oh.
I know, right? The penny is the oldest form of currency that has been around since the 1700s in its kind of current form. And that shaped our culture in many ways. I put in my 2 cents or all this stuff. And now, no more pennies.
Yeah, what are kids gonna put in those machines and smash in the gift shops at rural tourist attractions?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure somewhere in my childhood bedroom at home, Mom will have to weigh in. I probably have a Tallulah Gorge smashed penny that came out of one of those machines. What are the kids gonna smash now?
Now it's nickels, which is inflation.
Well, I am not upset about this, Stacey. I'm not mad, but I do, as someone who is excited about when our politics gets weird. Yes. I am happy that this one thing has happened.
And the penny?
That period during the early part of the Trump administration when they were like, we're going to get rid of the penny. We're going to get rid of daylight savings time. We're like the get weird period of the beginning of the Trump presidency. I don't know. I'm kind of like, I'm into it. I feel
you're like, okay, you're accomplishing
this is promises made, promises kept.
Yeah, they're in their bag right now with like this specifically.
With the penny. I mean, the penny costs more than a cent to make. Mm-hmm. So there's an economic case for it. But the nickel and I believe the dime also cost more, which it just does push the price of things up.
No one carries around change. It's annoying. It just piles up in your jar. They should get rid of all of it.
I will have you know that I was recently at the Money Museum in St. Louis, and I purchased, they have a lot of penny jewelry for sale, which is very reasonably priced. And I purchased a pair of penny earrings that are pretty fetching. I'll wear them next week.
Okay, Amanda, you heard the two underrated stories. Which do you like best?
You know, as like a longtime fan of belligerent posting.
No! But the penny!
I have to side with
hundreds of years of history.
Well, Joyce Carol Oates is like 87 years of history, and she's still out here.
A national treasure.
She's still out here creating value for the public.
Listeners, tell us which story you like the best. If
Team
you
penny.
have a favorite coin that's not the penny.
Home to the penny.
Weigh in. Yeah, let us know which one was best. But I think we know.
Penny for the old guy.
Amanda Mull, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
This show is produced by Stacey Wong. Magnus Henriksen is our supervising producer, and Amy Keene is our executive producer. Sam Rogich handles engineering, and Dave Purcell fact-checks. Sage Bauman heads Bloomberg Podcasts. Special thanks to Jeff Muskus, Julia Rubin, and Maria Ling. If you have a minute, please rate and review the show. It means a lot to us. And if you have a story that should be our business, send us an email, everybody's@bloomberg.net. That is everybody's with an S at bloomberg.net.
You gotta tell us. Video games, perfume, what is it?
Yeah, Max wants to know.
I need to know.
And so do I. Thank you for listening, and see you next week.